This video is sponsored by Dorico. Dorico's popovers are already one of the best features of the software, but today we're talking about what I think is the most powerful one of them all, the Note Tools popover. This is the popover that lets you edit and manipulate your notes at lightning speed, and if you're not using it, you're missing out. Let's dive right into it. Okay, so I have a passage here of some notes. How do we invoke the Note Tools popover? All we have to do is select some notes and then hit the key command Shift-I. And then the Note Tools popover appears. Now, what do we type in here? Well, the first use of the Note Tools popover is adding intervals to your notes. So for example, I can type 8, hit enter, and it'll add an octave above the notes that I had selected. And the advantage of using the Note Tools popover is you can type in exactly what interval you want to add, like maybe a third, or maybe let's add a fifth, etc. You can type any interval and that'll work. You can get even more specific with your intervals though. So let's say in this measure, I want to add not a third, but a minor third instead. Hit enter, and then it adds the appropriate interval on top of those notes. Let's undo all of that. We can also add intervals below these notes. So I'll select the first measure again, Shift-I, and let's type in a minus 8, telling Dorico to add an octave below the notes. And there we go. Next measure, let's add something like a minor 6 below. As you can see, this is a really quick way of adding harmony to your notes, or just adding octaves really quickly for a selection of notes, anything like that. By the way, if you've just started using Dorico and you feel a little lost with how to take real advantage of it, I have a course called the Dorico Beginner to Pro course, designed specifically to those new to Dorico to take advantage of all of its unique features, but presented in a comprehensive step-by-step way. And right now the course is 20% off as part of my spring sale, and course members also get an exclusive 15% discount to Dorico Elements or Dorico Pro, and that expires at the end of March. So if you've been thinking about upgrading or getting Dorico for yourself, now's the time. Get the course, you'll get that discount and the discount to Dorico for 15% off. I talk about the Note Tools popover as well as a ton of really useful arranging and music editing tools in Dorico. So check that out if that's interesting to you. Okay, now in addition to adding intervals to these notes, we can add chords. So in the Note Tools popover, we can add not only an interval, but if we separate these intervals with commas, we can stack intervals. So let's add a third and a fifth to this measure. And all of a sudden I have these triads. Or something more unique like a minor third plus a sixth. Even cooler. Or let's select this whole package and do something like a third, a fifth, and a seventh. Super quick and easy arranging tools, so you don't have to go in and meticulously add one note at a time when you know that you're just doing block chords. Of course, all of the same interval features apply, so we can have a minor third above, but a fifth below, for example. So you're not really tethered to going one direction or another. You can mix and match. Okay, let's go further. In addition to adding intervals, you can change the notes that you have selected with the Note Tools popover. One of those ways is by transposing really quickly. So I can select this entire system and say I want to change it from the key it's in, which is E flat, but I want to transpose, say, up a perfect fifth. I'll type T for transpose, and then any interval, 5. This transposes everything up a fifth. Let me undo that. Let's transpose up a minor third, all the same. Let's transpose down a minor 6, super easy. So those interval commands that we learned, adding the lowercase m for minor or the minus sign for underneath, those same things apply in these contexts as well. Just to take things a little bit further, if you have certain intervals, like say you added a third and a fifth, and you want to transpose maybe just a certain selection of this, in the Note Tools popover, I'll hit T for transpose, but then I'll type top, which is referring to selecting or filtering the top note of the selection, and then down minor 8. You can see that all of those notes that were added, now I'm basically flipping the inversion of this. Speaking of inversion, that's the next use case for Note Tools. So here we are back to our single line. Now you can select a series of notes and invert the order in which those notes appear. There are a few ways to do this. One of the easiest is with Note Tools up. Just type inv, which is short for invert, hit enter, and this will invert the notes based on the highest and the lowest notes as part of your selection. So basically, it just flips the melody upside down, and if you use this is something cool to just start coming up with different variations of the music that you have once you feel like you're kind of stuck or you're doing the same things over and over again. This is essentially the same material, but it's changed a little bit, and that's really useful. Now, in that same vein, instead of inverting these notes, we can reverse them. So Shift I, and let's type in rev for reverse. You can type in reverse if you want to, but rev is quicker. And now these notes have been inverted. Let's do a little check. So the first note of our new inverted passage is a G, A, and then B. Let's undo what we did and see where those were. You can see the last three notes of our original melody were G, A, and B. So it flipped everything, including the rhythm. So reversing measure or retrograde is a really cool compositional technique. And if you haven't tried it before, you'd be surprised how a melody that you came up with can sound also really good backwards. Not always, but like sometimes it just gives you a unique perspective that you didn't see before. So instead of reverse, you could type ret for retrograde. That does the same thing. Now the next tool is one called rotation. Now rotation is really interesting. So here in this measure, we start off with a G as the first pitch. Let's go Shift I, and we'll type in rot, short for rotate, and then just the number 1. This has basically like moved our first beat by 1 step to the right, and what was at the back now is in the front. So I'll just keep doing it and you'll see it sort of rotate. Here I go again, Shift I, rotate by 1 step. I'll do it again, rotate by 1 step. Again, rotate by 1 step. And here it's split it because 1 step is referring to like both the rhythm and the pitch. In this case, it's just one rhythmic position. Because the G it's on its own specific place and time compared to everything else that stayed here. Let's do that one more time. We can do it a certain number of steps. So let's rotate this by 3 steps. This applies to both rhythms and pitches, so you can specify whether you just want to rotate the pitch, just want to rotate the rhythm, or both at the same time. So you can type something like rotate RM, this is short for rhythm, by 2 steps. Now it moved just the rhythm, not the pitches, the 2/8 notes forward in time. A super fascinating way of working, and using these tools is such a great way of introducing just new or unexpected twists or ideas or things you just didn't even consider. Okay, the next function of the Note Tools Popover is using it to repeat a figure. So for example, I just want to repeat the first 2 pitches here. Shift I, and I'll just straight up type repeat 2 pitches. Enter. Now you can see that Dorico, no matter the rhythm, is repeating the G to F movement. Okay, now let's say I choose this entire passage and type repeat the first, 4 pitches. Now it's the same figure over and over again. Isn't that cool? This could be cool for adding ostinatos, or say you have a cool rhythm and you realize that you want to get a little repetitive with it or something like that. Then you can just repeat the notes that you have. And you can type any number into that repeat pitches option. It's just that this was for example. Next is pitch mapping. So you can select a range of notes, Shift I, and let's change where these notes are to somewhere else. So let's say I want to move all of my G's to a C and all of my F's and move that. I'm using the equal sign. Let's change those to A flat. And then the C should change to E flat. Now, what I specified the specific pitches to be mapped to has changed. Again, this can be another way of editing or arranging your music. You can get specific with changing these as well. Okay, so these are C5s, I think. And we can change this back to G4, for example. So all of those C's that I mapped, I specifically chose which octave to move them to. So I could select these again, C5, but change it to G3 instead. So you can map an entire range of notes and just move a specific note to wherever you want. Okay, last but not least with the Note Tools Popover is scale mapping. So this entire passage is in E flat. We can map it to a different scale instead. So let's change this from E flat major. You have to put a space in between there to specify what you're doing, to E flat Dorian. Add a few flats where appropriate. Let's do another one. Let's do E flat major to G Phrygian. Or simply, how about E flat major to E flat Lydian? Or E flat major to whole tone. Whatever you want, you can snap basically any of these notes to fit a particular scale or mode. And that's just another way of quickly writing or quickly arranging something in Dorico using the Note Tools Popover. Okay, so there you have it. What I think is the most powerful popover in Dorico, and hopefully having seen this, you can see why. If you haven't been using this tool, now's the time to start. If you feel stuck in your compositions, try some of the rotation or inverting commands and just basically shake up your music. Look at it from a different perspective. You'd be surprised how that can spark a creative thought and get you writing more. So let me know in the comments, have you used the Note Tools Popover before? Did you even know that it existed? If you haven't, will you? All right, that's it from me for this video. Hit the like button if you found this useful. Don't forget to subscribe for more. And thanks so very much for watching. And as always, take care.